Today's clip is going to be about blending. Um, so I'm getting my tones ready here, my various values that are light, medium, and dark. And I'm starting to blend them together by working the markers wet into wet. When the ink is wet, and you use the light marker and the darker marker at the same time, you can actually blend the color into each other. Okay, as you can see here, I've taken my earth tones and I've started blending them together. Now I'm going to refine the blend, polish it out by saturating the paper towel and rubbing, right? Rubbing the pigment into the ink on the paper, and by doing that, I can actually refine the look and the feel of the gradient. Right? You see me there? So I just put a bluish gray into it just to bring a little bit of the blue into the gradient, and just blending out the tip so that it's a soft transition. Now I'm going to apply the same approach to a mannequin head. I do the silhouette. I start blending in the flesh tone. Then I do another layer of yellow on top. Give it some light, give it some glow. Now I'm applying the dark tone, working it wet into wet, and then going back with the yellow marker and blending out those edges. Right? If I can keep the ink moist, it will just allow me to drag it along the surface and blend it right out. So now I do a little outline with my wonderful Chartpak nib. So what I love about the Chartpak is it sort of allows you to draw and get a very fine line that is actually the color. Here now I'm going in with the core shadow, so I put in the light tone and I put in the dark tone. Now I'm building out the core shadow. Notice how the darker value is inside the form, right where the dark tone and the light tone meet. And I'm building out now the features of the mannequin head, the brow, the eyes, the eye sockets, the nose structure, the barrel of the mouth, the chin. All the time working wet into wet so that I can get my blends. You have to work fast, unfortunately. So the one thing that this kind of a technique and these kinds of materials demand of you is that you have to be very decisive and work quickly. And if you do, you get this incredible, wonderful, fast look, quality in the work. But you have to attack it. You notice how I've been using circular movements, sort of to blend the marker, like a polishing motion, counterclockwise and clockwise. Now I'm using the tissue technique to dry brush and blend out some of the edges, that remain more graphic with markers. And now this is always the fun part. Now I'm taking those crayons, those Caran d'Ache crayons that I told you about, which are so meaty and they're so opaque, and I'm starting to go over the transparent markers now with a fat, opaque, waxy crayon to build back out some of the highlights and some of the light tones. And also blend in some different hues, some redder and cooler hues to activate the earth tones that I used at the base of the mannequin head. Now this is a wonderful way of balancing out the two materials, the pencil crayons and the Caran d'Ache wax soluble water-soluble crayons, which are opaque and more meaty, on top of the transparent inks of the markers. Now I'm finishing up the drawing with a black pencil crayon, putting into cast shadows right in the critical detail areas, cutting a nice clean outline for the head so that it looks real crisp, some eyebrows. Of course I could go the whole hog and start doing hairdos and so on and so forth, but not necessary. You can see now the color chroma all coming together, a little bit of reflected light under the chin, and there's a super fast, 3D looking head. Highlight, hitting it hard with a number 3 brush. Get that tweak, little smudge out. Be bold, be daring, don't be afraid. You could always do another one. Highlights in the pupil, little reflected light right on the rim of the bottom lid, and there you have it. A mannequin head, full color, blending using paper towel, saturated paper towel, and wet into wet techniques. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing to a full figure. Once again, just quickly using the wireframe technique that we learned in drawing 1 to block out my figure, standing figure. I've gotten out my base light tone. Go in with now the dark shade, blending it out, wet into wet, pink. I'll build out the planes of all the dark value, blending it out. Love those nibs from Chartpak. They're so brilliant. You turn that on a certain angle and all of a sudden it's a fine liner. You turn it on another angle and you're covering massive areas of a drawing or of an object, with the color of the marker. As you can see here, I'm blocking out the dark value on the figure. Bringing that outline, very important, because that dark value would be on that edge, unless you had complete, profile or backlighting, you'd have a little shadow on that edge. Now I'm putting in the core shadow, just like I did in the head, working wet into wet, blending. I'll also use a paper towel technique a little later. Okay. Markers are not designed to be like a beautiful medium. They're about speed. They were developed for the purpose of designing and planning so that you could draw very rich, full color and tonal drawings for clients and agencies and ad agencies and film companies and so on and so forth. So it's really about maximizing speed. But once you start attacking it and you realize that if you work the markers wet into wet and you saturate a paper towel and you use a sort of a soft gradient dry brush effect at the edges of the different values, you can create some stunning drawings incredibly fast and learn a great deal about light and dark and the placement of core shadow, and get some really incredible full effects. Okay, you see here I'm dropping in a blue cast shadow. Why? Because I've been working the earth tones and the orange, red and pink spectrum. The blue sets off those colors. It's a trigger. I like to refer to a complementary color or a color on the opposite side of the color wheel from the base or the ground palette of the drawing or the painting, a trigger color, because once you put it in, it sort of contrasts and sets off all the yellows, reds, and oranges that are in the figure. That blue now just sets them off, and the light becomes even richer. Now I'm starting to finish up with the black cast shadow. And I've always thought of the contour line as a cast shadow. It literally is the rim of the shadow side of an object. You know, an object can only be lit 50% of its mass relative to the position of the light source. So wherever the light source is, the light source can only hit 50% of it. Right, the other 50% is in the shadow area, and the understanding where that border is between the shadow and the light is very important. You know, I refer to the shadow as the dark. Sometimes when describing the various values that you need to create three-dimensional looking objects. Right? You know, we have the highlight, we have the light, we have the dark, we have the core shadow, we have the cast shadow, and we have reflected light. And there is no obligation to use all of those principles, okay? But those are the various elements that you have available to you to create the illusion of depth and 3 dimensions in a rendering and in a layout. You know, really quickly. And to quite beautiful effect. Now again, I'm using the pencil crayons to bring in some of the yellow value and to tint some of the tones brighter and closer to a highlight and a light tone. Pencil crayons work lovely. They can be a nice cool pink highlight. I will finish the final highlight with pure white paint. Gouache opaque paint is the unmistakably the best approach when wanting to get an absolutely pure white for a highlight. The nice thing about a pencil crayon is it gives you that sort of value just a step down from the pure white, which would be a 0 value. And here I go. I'm going to put the final highlight, and you can see it pop compared to the white of the pencil crayon. You can use this to full advantage. You know, when you're drawing quick little renderings that are just sparkle. You know. So be bold, be brave, try things. If it doesn't work, no problem. Go back and do it again. That's the beauty about this, is that when you're working with the gesture, you're working with speed. You know, you can just do it again and learn from your previous attempts. Always have fun. Be kind to yourself. Work hard, but be kind. And remember, speed is God, and with repetition, the quality will catch up.